Continue with Sense and Sensibility. All three Dutchwood daughters agreed that they will love more wealth and imagine how they will use more money if they had it. And everyone talked about each other's particular character. The next morning at breakfast, Marianne saw a ring on the Edward's finger that had a lock of hair in it. She asked if it was Fanny's hair, and after a long pause said that it was. Later that day, Sir John and Mrs. Jennings visited to meet Edward. Edward stayed for a week at the Dashwood's cottage. The morning of Edward's departure, Eleanor felt so sad, but didn't allow her emotions to show, in great contrast as Marianne, because he had behaved so bad when Willoughby had left. Mrs. Palmer invited Eleanor and Marianne to come stay with her and her husband in London, but at first they declined the invitation. Eleanor asked if Mrs. Palmer knew Willoughby. She said she knew of him, and said she was glad that Willoughby was going to marry Marianne. Eleanor said that she didn't know for certain that they were engaged. Sir John and Mrs. Jennings had more guests to introduce to Dashwood. Annie and Lucy Steele, two young women, both relatives of Mrs. Jennings. Annie Steele said that they knew Edward, but Lucy corrected her and said that they didn't know him well. Eleanor was curious because she heard that, but couldn't find more about how the Steeles knew Edward. Finally, Lucy admitted that she was engaged to Edward. Eleanor was shocked. So Lucy said that it was a secret engagement, that only she, Edward, and Annie knew. But Lucy showed Eleanor a letter in which she recognized that it was Edward's handwriting. Also told her that she had given Edward a lock of hair that he kept in a ring. Their conversation concluded, and Eleanor was sure that Edward was stuck in a loveless engagement and that Lucy was merely self-interested, not really in love with Edward. On January, they arrived at Mrs. Jennings' place in London, and the next day Marianne continued to wait the visit of Willoughby, but he didn't arrive. For the next 3 or 4 days, Willoughby neither came to see Marianne nor wrote her. Eleanor and Marianne went to a party with Lady Middleton, and Marianne was in bad mood as usual, but then she saw Willoughby across the room, so she almost ran directly to him, but Eleanor told her to stay composed in public. Willoughby saw Marianne and Eleanor. He greeted Eleanor, but ignored Marianne. So Marianne asked if he had received her letters, but he didn't reply. Finally, he said that he had received the letters, and then he left. So Marianne turned pale, and Eleanor tried to advise her to maintain composure. So one day, Willoughby sent a letter to Marianne in which he said he didn't want to be with her anymore because he got engaged with another person. Marianne was too sad, crying on her bed. Eleanor tried to make her calm, but it was impossible. In February, Willoughby married with Mr. or Mrs. Grey, So Eleanor informed Marianne, and she tried to control her emotions, but she couldn't. Eleanor persuaded Marianne to go out with her and Mrs. Jennings on one morning. Eleanor was in a jewel store, and he was surprised to see her brother, John Dashwood. He said that he had arrived in London 2 days ago, but hadn't had time yet to pay his sisters a visit. John visited his sister the next day and asked for the behavior of Marianne, so Eleanor told him about the situation of Marianne, and he was sad because of her sisters. It is the end of the Second part.